Nope. All right, let's start over. All right, this is the Helm Dev public meeting. It is August 31st, 2017. We don't have very many announcements. There's one PR that got merged for 2.6.1. So we should talk at the end about when we want to do that release. Other than that, I have no announcements. If you have something, feel free to speak up during your stand-up time or at the end. And so let's get started with stand-ups. Fisher, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So this week, I was just doing a lot of PR review for the most part this week. I have one PR open that I've been intending to every single day to try and get back and to rebase that. But otherwise, I've just been active on the issues and just making sure that issues are being attended to and the PRs are trying to go through. That's about it for me today. Butcher's not here. Maciej.
Thanks. Yeah, so this week was not so helmy for me. I was working mostly on the Federation Rudder. I was trying, well, it was kind of helmy. I was trying to very furiously to figure out how to change host names that are defined in charts into the Federation specific host names, because so that pods that are scattered throughout different clusters can actually access the services via the Federation hostname, which should work for them if the DNSs are working. But yeah, so it turns out that there is that operator has to do it quasi-manually. So I am doing kind of a workaround hack to actually achieve that. It's not beautiful, but it will hopefully work. Other than that, I am waiting in anticipation for reviews on the end-to-end PR. And yeah, but in this week, I plan to do some more work on Helm. I will have 3 cycles to do reviews and do some work there. Yeah, okay. The chat is exploding, so the ball goes to Adam.
Yeah, it's always best to turn off the chat when you're doing your stand-up because it's way too distracting with this group of clowns. So yeah, not too much homework. Other than I did get a chance to review your EDE stuff quite extensively, Maciej, and I think everything looks good on that. I just propose that we wait to merge it until after we cut the 1.6. That way we can do some testing on tags. Because that's the last thing I'm kind of concerned about, and we might want to do some test tags. That's the thing I struggled with the most with the initial setup, was getting the automation for releases in place. One, just because it's not very intuitive on Circle CI, like how to configure all the branches and tags and all that kind of stuff. And then also it's very difficult to test. So I say we cut the release and then get the stuff merged in and then do a couple test tags that would match but not be an official tagged release. That way we can do some tests to make sure it goes through the whole entire release pipeline, because I don't want to wait to do that till we're cutting a release. But we can talk about some strategies for that moving forward as well. So yeah, hopefully we can get that stuff merged in this week. And it looks awesome, by the way. Let's see, Taylor.
Okay, so I was the issues are this week, but Fisher and Justin kind of did my job for me. So I just reviewed some PRs. Thank you, guys. And so I just reviewed some PRs and got some of that all done. I reviewed the E2E PR and the Circle PR, all those different things, so we could get the 2 on there. I am all in favor of merging in that 2.6, or Adam was too when I talked to him, but just I think it'd be good to do the 2.6.1 release today or tomorrow at the latest, because that bug is kind of a little bit of a nasty bug for those of us who use intermingled charts. So that I think is the big thing for me. The other thing is I post this in the dev channel as well, but I was reviewing a PR. So someone opened a PR to add a secrets storage backend, so you can switch out from config maps to secrets for Tiller. It is a pretty big PR, but straightforward but big. And there's one change to a publicly exported function, so I marked it as breaking for now until I could get some second opinions on it. So due to the size, I want at least one other person reviewing it besides me from the core team, and then I will be testing. I reviewed the code, and I'll be testing out the rest actually locally when I get home tonight. So that's the plan for me, and I'll keep working on some PRs during this next week because we have a whole bunch of them, and then continue finally working on the Commandeer stuff again. That's it for me. Justin.
Yeah, so just generally working issues and stuff. Trying to post my picture. I've taken up the recursive build stuff as of yesterday. I'm going to try to get some tests in for that. Someone's already done the work there, so that's what I'll be working on. But other than that, just generic issue and PR stuff, so intending. So, Fisher, you want to go?
I've already gone, but Adnan, do you want to go?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have much Helm worthy this week. If Butch was here, I'd mention well, I guess I'm mentioning it anyway. In the community repo, there's the PR for adding the meeting notes, and I think we just need to update that so it's referring to one doc rather than multiple docs, and then that's good to go. On chart side of things, there's some on the chart side of things, there's some discussion around removing annotations and switching to fields for things like init containers and Butcher just joined. Okay, did you hear what I said, Butcher?
Yeah, I had just joined.
That's perfect timing.
I might argue with that.
But yeah, anyway, no pressure. Just a reminder to fix that PR up. Yeah, so on the chart side of things, there's some discussions around moving away from annotations and moving to field names for things like storage classes and init containers. And given how much of a pain it is moving away from these now, I'd like to consider what we do in the future regarding these annotations. Like maybe we can hold off on the features until they're stable enough to have a field in the spec before we start supporting them in charts. I think, at the time we added these annotations, they were kind of really needed because there just wasn't another way to do things like init containers and storage classes. But at this point, I feel like we can probably hold back on those kind of features until they're stable enough. We're also seeing people. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just taking notes. What exactly? It was annotations over to, what was the? To
just having the fields in the spec.
Oh, fields in the spec. Okay, thank you.
Storage class and containers, yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, so the other thing we've been seeing a lot of people adding network policies, which is great. So hopefully we're defining some good best practices there, and also that can go down into the common chart once that is more actively used. That's all I have. Who hasn't gone? Steve, have you gone?
Unmute. Okay, I'm going to go quickly because, as I said, there's a lot of noise here right now. Happy if this roof survives. I've again been working on Helm adoption internally, which this week has centered on how hard it is to use Helm without having a chart repository. So we're looking at whether we can integrate. There's a plugin for Artifactory out there. I don't run Artifactory myself, but we have it internally, and we're looking at how that will change the landscape. We do have some people writing charts now, at least, which is great. But once you have anything more than one layer that you're building, it's kind of nasty. Other than that, over the weekend, I had a chance to go through some of the outstanding issues and comment on them, but I haven't made any code changes lately. So that's it for me. Michelle, do you want to report in?
Yeah, sure. Actually, no Helm updates for me this week. I did create a playlist on the old Deus YouTube account for these Helm dev calls as a temporary sort of situation. And then I linked the recording from last week to the notes, and I'll probably go and work on figuring out if that playlist should live in the Kubernetes YouTube world or if it should live in the CNCF world. I don't know what the answer is, but I'll kind of go to both parties and see how they feel about it. That's it for me, Butcher.
Did anybody have an update on Helm template and whether that got merged in? I checked on it the other day and then forgot to check yesterday.
So I did rebase it, and I think it's good to go, but I didn't merge it. It needs to be re-reviewed. It was changed a lot. So yeah.
I will do that right away. One of the things I started on earlier this week was starting to merge patches into the into the plugin, and then I'm like, wait, I should not be doing this. So I've been sending people back to the main repo. So I'll review that and also fix my community one. Other than doing a few reviews of things, I haven't done too much on Helm. I've been working on other chart stuff this week, though. I think that's it for me. I don't really have anything.
I think that's everyone. Okay, cool. Taylor, you had some discussion item that you wanted to bring up?
Yes. So I was going to report back. If you noticed, we had the robots taking over Helm because that's what robots do. And I found out, so I asked in the contributors channel about the stuff they set up. So they're trying to kind of standardize on, let me just double check how they said this. They're just trying to go to like some more standard labeling and look and feel across all the Kubernetes projects underneath the Kubernetes umbrella. And so that's where all of a sudden we've had like this automatic robot stuff coming from. There's a whole list of things that are enabled for the whole organization. I'll actually post that link right here that are enabled. So we have like the LGTM command and like reopen and close and CLA. Like there's a couple of those different commands that I've never even really used that much in the Kubernetes stuff because I haven't really merged too many PRs there. So basically the open question is, do we want to keep going with this and try to match what Kubernetes is doing and then just get kind of our own configuration of how we want to like you can configure a lot of this supposedly per repo is what they said. I haven't quite figured that out yet. So do we want to kind of follow along with that, or are we more moving towards this idea of trying to like have our own like project org like we had talked about before?
Yeah, historically, every time they've enabled anything on our repo, I've just gone in and disabled it. And that's the work, because we've always had our own workflow. So like a lot of this kind of stuff, it's not defined on how we do it. So I think it would be a good time to talk about like, do we want to assimilate into the Kubernetes world and stay on Kubernetes, or when do we want to make the jump to Kubernetes Helm?
Yeah, and we are getting pressure to move things to Kubernetes Helm. It's a big ordeal, so I haven't signed any of it. So if we move over to Kubernetes Helm, it's not clear that any of those bots would go with us. So
I don't think they would. I think it's only for Kubernetes.
Right, because they all get administered by a particular DevOps team that's all internal to Google. So other than Vic, I'm not sure anybody here would even have access to the team that manages most of that stuff.
There's
right, and the bot is only operates on the Kubernetes org, so it wouldn't be going out to any of the sub orgs for Kubernetes.
Yeah, and I guess one of the concerns would be the CNCF CLA or bot that we would want on the Kubernetes Helm org at the very least as well.
Yeah, my understanding is that the CNCF stuff we can move. or will come with us because we are a CNCF project. But my understanding is the stuff that's managed by Google, there's no assurance that it will travel to all the suborgs underneath Kubernetes. It's kind of like a case, but my understanding is it's a case-by-case thing. Were you going to say something, Taylor? Do you know something? I don't.
Well, I was saying there is a channel, so it's sig contribx.
Yeah.
That's the channel that I eventually ended up in. They've
Bless
been
you.
talking about that, so they were pretty open about the communication with that. But that's where I got all this info from.
I mean, I would say, I would assume that some of the bots would come with moving to Kubernetes Helm. I mean, certainly that's, we rely on a lot of those in charts, so especially with regards to CI. So I think that would definitely be a blocker for us moving.
Well, they have, if you see in that config file that I linked, it appears that they have it pointing at other repos that aren't underneath Kubernetes.
Okay.
And so I think we could still configure a lot of those through there. Since this is test info, I guess we can just open a PR and pull that in once we move orgs. So I'm wondering, do we just turn off the bots for now? Do we have Adam turn off those bots, and then we'll bring over the bots we want when we move to our own separate org? Or do we want to just try to assimilate right now?
And all become Borgs.
Yes, that's what I think of when I hear assimilate. Sorry, Star Trek in me. But what do people think about that?
Is there a specific bot you're talking about? I mean, I recently noticed that the size stuff is being automatically done now, so it's adding its own size labels, which I actually thought was pretty useful. But I remember you set up a doc on in contributing of like how we size stuff in Helm, right? So yeah, that may be one
that's configurable. That's what they were telling me.
Okay.
So I haven't looked into it. So it just depends on whether or not we're okay with kind of assimilating that in and going with that Google stuff, or if people are like, no way. Because I know before people didn't like all the labels we put in. They put in automatically and all this other stuff, and then it was turning on reviewable for us, which is getting these weird mixed things between reviewable and PR. So I'm just wondering which one, because I can do either one. I can help out with that. I just want to make sure I'm doing what we all decide we want to do.
The labels doesn't really have any impact on any workflow issues. So correct? Am I correct in thinking that?
We just have to change it so it does the right labels for us.
Right.
It seems like nobody's passionate about these bots, but it's not really getting in anyone's way either.
Okay, then we can go forward with it. I'm going to figure out how we can configure the bot to do our proper sizing, and then we can deal with each bot as it tries to take over.
Yeah, I think some things are generally really useful, like size. If you're able to configure it to do, what we want, then it just makes our lives a lot easier because we don't have to go through all of them and size them manually, right?
Yeah, and I do want that. I wanted that eventually, but I wasn't sure how to do that. So now that I have a way, I'm going to see if I can talk to them and find a way to configure it.
Yeah, I know Anirudh or Foxes. He works on the I don't know if he's part of Contribex, but he does work on some things in test infrastructure. So yeah, maybe you can talk to him or someone from Contribex. I'm sure will be able to help you with that.
Yeah, that's my plan. I'll go ahead and do that. I just wanted to run it by everyone else. We can move on now.
Cool. Does anybody else have any things they want to bring up? We can also talk about when we want to do 1.6.1. Adam, go ahead.
That was it.
Great.
You beat me to it.
No, I read your mind. That's all.
Oh, scary. So, Taylor, we have that one PR. Is there anything else that you've seen come in that should be in a patch release?
Not any bugs I've seen. Fisher, Justin, did you see any while you were going through the issues either that were like bugs that we might want to take care of first?
There was something else in there, but I'm gonna have to go look again. Seems like something's sticking out. I think not deleting people's charts probably.
Could be bad.
Some people are against that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that was needing a 251 release other than the requirements.yaml deleting the subcharts if it wasn't present in requirements.yaml. That was the only issue that I saw came in over the last week.
Okay.
The only other little bug I saw in there was something about the regexp search that I think already has an open PR for it.
Yes, it's case sensitive when you throw regex on there.
Yeah, so now it's case sensitive instead of non-case sensitive. I mean, we could pull that in. It's a pretty small PR. We just need a review. But otherwise, I don't see any other big bugs.
Okay. Yeah, let's check on that one, and then if that's something that could get in, if we can get it in quick, then we can cut a release today.
If someone wants to review that, I just posted the link. We could probably get it in pretty easily. I mean, it looks correct. I just haven't manually tested it.
Right. What I'm more concerned about is doing the cherry pick.
In Slack, there was a person complaining about that.
Yeah, this doesn't look like any. Yeah, we could probably get this in.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I saw that, Steve. I knew that was a bug that might bite somebody and get somebody mad, which happened. So.
Do we think we have adequate tests covering that feature? Yeah, obviously, we probably thought we did before.
Well, that's what the end-to-end tests are going to do for us, I think, catch some of these. That's the idea of merging that in, because a lot of the bugs we have run into are because of the lack of end-to-end, which is why this thing from Mache is so awesome.
I guess it requires us having, as part of that test, charts that are shaped like the problematic one that person was complaining about, right?
Yeah, the thing with the EDE test is it's kind of a limited set of tests at the beginning, but as we run across things, then we can add scenarios to make sure that we don't get bit again. Okay. So when like stuff comes up that is particularly difficult to test in unit tests, then we can just add scenarios to that, and then we can eventually build up a suite so we don't run into stuff like this.
Thanks.
Yeah, would that be good for like a building chart, like a dependency build and all that, or continue on with what we've got, the way it's being built right now?
Yeah, we can essentially, with the EDE stuff, we can essentially add in whatever we want. So if it's something that, I mean, there's a cost to it, obviously, because it's going to make PRs run slower and stuff like that. So that has to be taken into account. It's just, but anything that is problematic, that is difficult to test with unit tests, that I think we should add something in there.
Because a lot of them feel kind of EDE tests now anyway. They're not really unit tests, and I don't know if we're going to try to move some of those. But it's all good. I'll just finish up what I'm doing the way I'm doing it and look into the EDE stuff later.
Okay, yeah. My opinion is the unit tests are the way to go if it can be tested with it, just because they're so much less expensive on CI. So if they can be isolated to specifically the environment that you're working on, it's a lot better. One, just for feedback loop also, because if a unit test fails, you know exactly where it failed. Like EDE test, you just know it failed somewhere in the execution. So EDE tests are more of like a catch-all, just like a safety net kind of thing, where it's not exactly a good answer. It's just it's kind of just a fail-safe is all I see. Just a last second check just before it goes into to master or release.
Oh, by the way, I'll be in Denver, not next week, the week after next week. So I don't know what you guys do down there, but I'll be there for a few days. So I'll see if anybody wants to come get a beer, or I don't know if I probably won't have a car, Uber to wherever. See what happens. So,
I think I'll be in
Also,
LA
Fisher,
that week.
I found one more bug that you had reviewed, and he was just waiting for one more review from you to add unit tests. And I posted that in there. That could be one more bug we pull into 261 that I almost missed. It's a little tiny one, but it's also a simple one that we could probably pull in and have those 3 little bugs be fixed with 261.
Oh yeah, that's the relative path to the index file one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Does anybody have any demos for today? All right. Anybody else want to bring up anything? Lyft, LYPHT. I'm calling you out. You're new. Do you want to introduce yourself? Or maybe you're not, but.
Somewhat new, yeah. Mostly here to learn from everyone, but hope to contribute soon.
Cool. What's your name? Where do you work?
I'm Josh. I work for NBC Universal. You guys may know Scott Rigby. I work closely with him.
Very cool. Yeah, no, Scott. Awesome.
Yeah, they've been providing me lots of feedback on the Commandeer stuff. So they're kind of my go-to people for all that stuff when I write it.
Nice.
Awesome. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Alrighty. I think we're going to finish on time. So have a great week. Oh, wait, no, wait. We need to do planning. Who wants to be issues are? Issues are
It's a short week.
and note taker.
I can do note taking next week.
Okay.
I can look at issues.
Okay. Anybody want to be meeting moderator?
I can try.
That worked perfect. I was going to say if you didn't know, I could, but you do it, Mache.
All right, Mache. All right. Cool. All right. Have a great week. See you all next time.
Have a good holiday, guys. See ya.
Bye.
See you.
See you guys.